Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to do a very basic introduction to prompt engineering, and this is kind of like teaching you how to talk to these large language models like ChatGPT, Claude AI, Google Gemini, kind of like showing you what are the best ways that you can go about it. So the first thing to remember is that you need to be very specific in how you talk to ChatGPT. So for example, the more vague you are, the more vague the answer is going to be. So this is the case of garbage in, garbage out. So for example, if you're trying to learn web development, a very bad prompt would be tell me about learning. So for example, if you copy that and then go to ChatGPT, so if you just copy that and go to ChatGPT and ask it, tell me something about learning, it's going to give you a very generalized idea on what learning is and not really specific to what you want. So for example, here we have learning aspects, so learning, active learning versus passive learning, but there's nothing about web development. But if you want to learn about web development specifically, you always may have to make sure that you are specific in your prompt and have that in the prompt. So here I'm going to ask it suggest learning resources for web development. Paste that there, and here are some learning resources for web development. So we have beginner, front end, back end, and then full stack, and then advanced. So you can compare these two. These are two people who wanted to learn web development, but you can compare the answers. One is way more useful than the other one because this other one is a bit generalized. This one is not really as useful because it only gives you a very not as layered of an answer. So you're going to have to keep asking it way more questions to get what you want, and it's going to take a lot of time. But when you are specific with your prompt, you get to your answer quickly. So the other thing that you have to always remember is that you have to give ChatGPT context. So for example, you have to give it your situation, you have to give it your goals, and you also have to give it your knowledge background. So in our example of someone who's trying to learn web development, I can come and ask suggest resources for learning web development as a complete beginner without any coding experience. So for example, here I'm going to copy that prompt. So this was definitely a good prompt, but in this scenario it is going to assume that we already know how to code and that we're not necessarily beginners. It has given us a beginner level starting point, but we have no, it still is kind of assuming that we know how to code. So it's always good to be very specific with your background, give it context on your knowledge background as well. So here is suggest resources for learning web development as a complete beginner. This is my history and also my knowledge background. So that is, I have no coding experience at all. So since you're starting from scratch, you will want a structured approach. Here are some beginner level resources. So as you can see, this is way more detailed than what we had before. So even YouTube, it kind of like gives you that one as well. So this is way more detailed than what we had in the previous one, which is this one. So this was the previous one that we didn't really give it our background, and then compare this to now what we have here in this one, and you can see here it is way more detailed and it's going to take you as a beginner, so it's not really overwhelming you with tons of information. So always make sure that you give it your situation, you give it your goals, what you want to achieve at the end, and you give it your background knowledge. So just remember that more context is better responses. So the other thing that you have to keep in mind when it comes to prompt engineering is you have to keep it very simple. So for example, here I have a question and it is, what's the best programming language to learn and how long will I take? So this is not a very good prompt because ChatGPT will have to answer two questions at once. So for example, what's the best programming language to learn and how long will I take? So when I paste this here, it's going to go through the first question and then it's going to go through the second question, and it won't be as detailed. You will not get the chance to like have a very well structured and broken down response. So for example, this is what we have here, and I want you to look at the differences between that and then what I'm going to have it here. So the best way, if you have more than one question and they're related, just paste one question at a time. So for example, here, what's the best programming language to learn? You can see here it is incredibly detailed compared to what we had in the previous one. So compare that to what we have here. So you can see this is gonna like give you a very generalized answer, and then here how long just how long will it take to learn that language. So I'm going to go back to the one that we have answered. You can see this is a way longer response and better structured. How long will it take? So copy that. Like, just the way it's structuring your response is better. This one, it has been very detailed into, like, the first one is when learning HTML web development is 1 to 3 months. Next one is 3 to 6 months. We didn't necessarily get this realistic timeline compared to our previous response. It's not really as well structured compared to the other one. So when it comes to prompting, keep it simple, ask one question at a time. So it's always good to experiment with phrasing. So for example, small wording changes, example, learn web development or become a web developer. So the other thing is experiment with phrasing. Just small changes in how you're phrasing your words, how you're phrasing your sentences can give you different responses. The other thing is continuous feedback. So this is a conversation, and that's the beauty with ChatGPT compared to like what you have with Google, is if you don't really understand something, you can always tell it and it's going to give you more context or better responses. So for example, you can tell it what you like, you can tell it what you don't like, and you can tell it how to improve. So for example, you can tell it that's helpful, and can you focus on like free resources and not necessarily paid ones. Or you can ask it to give you certain resources in a different medium. So for example, if you only want resources that are on YouTube, so it can do that. Or if you want resources that you can only get in Udemy. So that it's a continuous conversation, and the more you talk to it, the better the responses are going to be. So this is a more advanced structure when it comes to prompt engineering, and this is the O1 prompt. This is a structure that was shared by an OpenAI engineer into how you should structure your prompts. And the 4 key parts were: you should always state your goal. You should state the return format. How do you want the information back? And you should always state the warnings, and these are just safeguards for accuracy and preventing errors. And then you should always have a context dump, and this is where you share all the relevant and background information about yourself to ChatGPT. So the first thing is we're going to structure a goal. So for example, here we're going to create a 3-month learning plan for learning data analysis with Python, and then the plan should be suitable for complete beginner. Explanation clear, specific, and objective. So that's like the goal. You need to, what goal do you want it to be? What is the end game? And after that, the return format here is going to be organize the plan by week. So like week 1, week 2, week 3. This is kind of like giving it like the structure of how you want the response to be. And then for each week, you're going to provide the learning objectives, what you want to learn, and then recommended resources, where it's going to be whether it's going to be free online courses, tutorials, articles, and then practice questions or exercises, and then estimated time that you need to do that in every week. So this is just explaining exactly how you want the structured response to be. And then when it comes to warnings is just ensure that the resources are reputable and up to date, and ensure that you're going to prioritize free resources because maybe you don't necessarily want to buy anything. And then you need to verify that the learning objectives are achievable within the given time frame. And this is just the safeguards for quality and realistic expectations. And then the last bit of the prompt is going to be a context dump. And the context dump here, I'm going to say I am a complete beginner with no prior example experience in programming or data analysis. And then I have around 10 hours a week to dedicate to learning. I prefer a very hands-on approach with lots of practice exercises. And then I learn best through video tutorials and interactive exercises. And then I'm also interested in data analysis for like a very specific reason. For example, me, let's say I'm interested in data analysis for AI. So that context dump is going to help ChatGPT structure now the response that's going to give you in a way that's way more suited for you specifically. So the complete prompt now is going to be, we're going to have the goal, and this is create a 3-month plan for data analysis and Python. And then the plan should be suitable for a complete beginner. And then the return format is organized by week 1, week 2, etc. And then for each week, we're going to provide that. And then we have the warnings there, and then we have the context dump. So this is just what I'm going to now copy as our complete prompt. And I just want to show you, copy that prompt, and then come back to ChatGPT, go to a new chat, paste that there, and then here for AI, and then click enter. And here it is. So 3-month learning plan for data analysis with Python. So total commitment 10 hours a week. So that's the first one where we have Python fundamentals and data handling. And you can see it's giving me really good, a very easy structure that you can easily follow. Oh, this is so good, to be honest. Like, it's kept it very simple, and then it has given you a very good structure. So this is something that you can always follow. So make sure that you have the goal, make sure that you have the warnings, make sure that you have the context dump, and make sure that you have the return format of how you want the response to be structured. So at the end of the prompt, you can ask like a clarifying question. So for example, here I can ask me clarifying questions until you are 95% confident that you can complete the task successfully. So take a deep breath and take it step by step. Remember to search the internet and to get up-to-date information. So this is something that you can post at the end of your prompt. So for example, here in this prompt that we just shared, let me go to a new chat. You can copy that, and then at the very end here, let me just paste here AI for systems AI. Let me just say systems AI. This is integrating AI into systems, company systems AI. And then here at the very end here, it's going to ask ChatGPT to ask me clarifying questions until it is sure of what I want. And then paste it there. So if it's not sure of what I want, it will ask me questions. And then the good thing here is that it makes sure that the response that it's going to give you is going to be as detailed or as useful to you as it possibly can be. Okay, so that is the introduction to prompt engineering. I hope it was useful. You can try it out with different prompting exercises that you have, different researches that you're doing. Try it out and let me know in the comments if it's been helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.